Hi, this is Dr. Mark Sena, and welcome to this episode of the Level Up Podcast. It's a podcast that brings you the ideas, the tools, the strategies to help you bring your practice up to the next level. I am here with my great buddy, Mo Piscatano. Mo, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
If,
having me, Mark.
if you haven't heard of Mo, you probably living under a rock somewhere. If you don't know, Mo is the founder, we like to call him the architect of the ProAdjuster system. And he's going to talk about some really cool updates. By the way, isn't what ProAdjuster all the cool people are doing now, right? I saw that.
That's right. All the cool kids.
All the cool kids. And Mo, thanks for being with me today. I truly appreciate it.
Sure thing. Yeah, great to be with you, Mark. And I'm happy to take a few moments with you and all of your folks to share some of our newest and latest and greatest technologies.
Great, man. And you're coming to us from this beautiful studio that you have set up there, which is fantastic. And we're going to actually get to see the beautiful equipment behind you. I know that the latest generation of the equipment is called SRT. And let our folks know what the S and the R and the T stand for.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the ProAdjuster SRT, this latest rendition, stands for simultaneous ramp treatment, because the ramping is both in the force and the frequency simultaneously. It's the first time it's ever been done, and it's really dramatic. The results are dramatic.
That's awesome. So as the head of the unit taps, it increases in the number of times that it does it, but also the strength of the tap, huh?
Exactly. And it's a very specific, what we call specifications. So when you select the amount of force, it ramps from that force upward with a sweeping motion and picks up speed along the way, as well as has 3 different force settings. So you can do cervical, thoracic, and lumbars at different forces. You can do extremities. It's really quite amazing.
Different frequency for soft tissue, right?
Correct. Yes.
Cool. So 2 units ProAdjuster, spine and extremities, right?
That's right.
And ProSoft is soft tissue and balance, correct?
The ProSoft SRT has the same premise, but it does it at a higher rate. So for example, the adjusting frequency we found over all these years of doing this, that the joints, both the extremities and the spine, respond the best to, happens to be between 8 and 14 cycles per second.
Yes.
And the soft tissue, proprioception, mechanoreception, responds best between 16 and 21. So that ramping frequency on the soft tissue is in that zone, and the adjusting frequency is a slower zone, which is 8 to 14.
Gotcha. And the tools are designed really to make them very easy to integrate into the chiropractic setting. I work with a whole bunch of chiropractors overseas, a bunch of them in Korea. There's no getting hands on adjusting skill seminars
Yeah, for sure.
in Korea, and they love your units. They absolutely do.
Yeah, thank you.
You want to give us a little tour?
Yeah, I'd love to, because I think, this is interesting. Both of our technologies, these main technologies, you can talk and talk and talk, but the reality is when a person sees it, touches it, and feels it, or in this case, at least gets a chance to see it and hear it, and it sets the stage. But, your point was about easy integration.
Yeah.
That was one of my primary objectives of the SRT development, was making it easier to incorporate. And we've had units over the years where you did a pre and a post analysis, you had to come back, you had to go back and forth. And what I found is a lot of doctors want to use high-level adjusting systems and get results like we do with the SRT, but they don't want to be bogged down. So some of our doctors, have addressed this with us. So we wanted in this latest rendition to be easy access to everybody, whether you've ever used an instrument to adjust or you've been using it your whole career. This will be the easiest path for you.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'll step back. The one I'll show you here is the SRT, and I'm going to just switch our camera angles. And Jerry, if you could just come in to about here, and I'll just give Mark, if it's okay, I'll just give you a little tour.
Yeah, that's
And
perfect.
essentially, you know, we've designed this chair pattern of adjusting over 20 years ago. This is our latest chair. But I like adjusting with an instrument in a chair because when a patient's in the chair, it gives us what we call a C posture. So it opens up those facet joints.
Yes.
And so the chair is part of our system, of course. And then what I have here, this is the computer component of the SRT. But I'll start, you know, which is where I usually do when I'm doing a demonstration, is with the handheld component. This one happens to be the ProAdjuster SRT. We put an LCD screen on the back.
And that's a new upgrade, I think, is the LCD. So you can look right at that while you're.
It is, that's correct.
Adjustment.
And it displays the forces and the frequencies as they ramp in real time. That's one of the features. Really easy to hold, very easy to incorporate, multiple tip design. I'll talk about the tips in a minute, but you literally can change the tip in about 3 seconds. And this particular tip has this staged or angled, we call this the triple tip. And the triple tip, I designed this, Mark. I've been thinking about this for years. Why do we adjust the individual vertebra level at one time? And with our previous tools, we would have to go in, let's say we wanted to adjust 3 cervicals, you'd have to go in 3 times. So I designed, and I have a patent pending on this triple tip design. This is just a big version of it so you could see. But this is on a 43-degree angle. The forces go directly into an equal to each tip. And so when we place that on the motor unit, I call it, what it allows us to do is to adjust the whole motor unit at one time. And a lot of the research shows with multiple impact adjusting, you influence 6 above and 6 below. So if I take the SRT triple tip and put it on C5, for example, let's say at the middle tip, I'm going to do 4, 5, and 6, but I'm getting 6 below and 6 above. So I'm moving that whole motor unit chain, and I'm doing it while ramping the force and frequency at the same time. That's awesome. Which actually, Mark, we found that cuts the treatment time down to 1/3. Because as you're increasing the force and frequency, you're increasing the mobility, and you're chasing behind it with more force and frequency. So you just need less impacts. It's quite phenomenal how it's worked out.
That is cool.
Can I show you the ramping, Mark? Would that be helpful?
I think if you flip it, you can just do one segment too as well, right?
You could. So if I was going to adjust the patient, I could do the triple, or I can just spin it.
Yeah.
What I could also do is just take that tip out and just put the single tip in. So with this design, what we found is that we've added a bunch of features, but we didn't lose any. And so, like, for example, that's the single level adjusting. And then I designed this extremity tip, Mark. And what it does is it hugs the joints. So I can do the whole shoulder anterior at one time. I can do the posterior, the knee. And again, with that ramping feature. So it makes a significant difference in how fast I'm done treating at a higher result. So I didn't want to sacrifice losing time with the patient to get the result, but because of this ramping, you do it in less time and get a better result. And we did a lot of our research with, maybe we can bring it up on one of the screens and show you, with a DMX, digital motion X-ray.
Yeah.
So we've got some really cool video of the SRT actually moving the joints. And maybe since I'm on the subject, if I just showed you this, you'd see what I mean. Can you get right in on that to show Mark?
Oh, yeah.
Can you see that okay, Mark?
You can, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So like there's the wrist, and with the wrist protocol tip, and then this is the extremity tip I just showed. And we built this right into the patient education piece of the SRT, because we found when you show patients that X-ray in motion, they're blown away to start with. But then you show them the instrument you're using on them, and they're blown away twice as far. So it's really gains a lot of trust factor that we've got the best of the best when we're talking to patients.
And your graphic interface is just gorgeous too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. If I can show you this ramping feature, and then I'll jump into the computer,
Yeah.
I think that might be helpful too. So, so this is the LCD screen, as you see. I'm just going to put it on my hand. So that takes what's called a preload, so that you're always pushing with the correct force. That turns it from that gray to green, and that'll allow you to pull the trigger, and then you'll hear it ramp, and it'll ramp again, and then again. So it ramps from that 8 cycles a second all the way through, and then if I was using, let's say, the lumbar spine, I could throw more force at it, and it'll ramp through those same speeds up to 14 cycles per second, and then it shuts off on its own.
Beautiful.
And then this stand comes with it, and we put these sort of holsters, if we can call it that. And then when you're in between patients, you're not looking for your instrument or it didn't fall on the ground or something like that. So even though it's simple, it makes it more efficient to see the patient.
Yeah, it's beautiful design.
Thank you. Can I show you the Pro Soft SRT, and then we'll do the computer?
Yeah, which I love the ProAdjuster. I'm as you know, a huge proponent of proprioceptive training, and
Yes.
it's missing in so many chiropractic protocols, and there's nothing that does it as well as your system that's out there.
Thank you. And this is our latest Pro Soft SRT device. This one is the one I mentioned, goes in that 16 to 21 cycles per second range. I have a protocol tip on it. Similarly, it has a preload pressure sensor, but listen to the speed, Mark.
Yeah.
So that one just zips along, and then this one ramps. So what this will do is it'll influence the mechanoreceptors and proprioceptors at the same time as all these different protocols, which I'll show you. So it's not just to, pull the trigger, pull the trigger, pull the trigger. Our pattern of use of this device is called MMT, mechanical motion therapy. And we designed the use of this device into our software system, which it says right there, soft tissue.
Yeah.
And when you go into the settings, you certainly can use this without the computer if you know the protocol you want to do. But say, for example, I wanted to do a shoulder protocol, brings up shoulder here, gives me 3 options. Let's say I pick this particular protocol, rotation. And what I can do here, Mark, is I have these yellow dots so the doctor knows where to put it. They know what setting to put the instrument on. And then you can move the arrow and it shows you the motion pattern that I would want you to go through. What we also did is we put a reference button to go into the more detail if the doctor wanted to have that particular feature opened up. And then I tied in the patient education from that other screen so that I can go right in and say, these are the tissues that I was working on. Here's the innervation. And we teach our doctors language opportunities for more referrals.
Yeah.
And so when people see this, many times patients, they didn't know chiropractors were so sophisticated to start with.
Oh yeah.
So now we have, we have 45 different protocols inside of this piece here, Mark, and we broke it down: shoulder, elbow, wrist, and hand, head and neck. And then I also came up with these, what I call freedom lifestyle protocols. Like this one is really cool and popular. It's called Aquaman. And it's where you take this person like they're swimming, and you go back and forth with them, and you're stimulating this at this super high speed, increasing range of motion, increasing proprioception. And, I know, for example, one of the things that you like to teach your folks is balance and coordination, which we'll talk about. So I have balance protocols built into this system as well. Even if they don't have the balance device, they could still do introductory balance therapy. And as you might have seen there, when I opened that up, these are all individual protocols. Here's a golf swing protocol. So we took a person and mapped out the exact pattern. And all of this treatment is like, it's minutes to do a protocol. Some of them not even a minute.
Yeah.
So you can really be thorough with the spine, extremity, and soft tissue all in one station now at the ProAdjuster SRT.
So Mo, would this be something that the chiropractor would do both, or would you switch out with a therapist to do the soft tissue, or what's your recommendation?
Yeah, great question. The chiropractor certainly could use both devices and do both sets of protocols, but the ProSoft SRT can be delegated to an assistant so that they can do these protocols either before or after the adjustment for those practitioners who have an extra staff or two.
Mm-hmm.
If you're independent practitioner, you certainly can do and learn all these protocols, but it's so much faster if somebody else does it, because when I go in to adjust with the ProAdjuster SRT, after a staff member did a protocol or two, like literally it takes a minute and a half. I mean, because the instrument is so fast, we're adjusting the whole motor unit at one time. As you now imagine, I got one spot in the cervicals, one in the thoracic, and one in the lumbar, and I'm pulling the trigger. I'm literally done in 65 seconds, 70 seconds.
That's amazing. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it really took a jump up, big jump up from the previous unit.
I love it. And I know in the proprioceptive training, you've kind of gamified it a little bit too. I remember that it's super fun that
Yes.
patients enjoy that component a lot.
Yes. Yeah, that's on the Pro Balance 360, and I'll demonstrate that for you as well.
Great. Awesome.
Can I show you another thing if I can over here, Mark, on our software system for the ProAdjuster and the SRT system? The way we've designed this is spine protocols and joint protocols for ProAdjuster, and then soft tissue for ProSoft.
Yep.
And this computer can be used simultaneous with either device, or you could use the devices independent of the computer. So for example, if I had to jump in the car and do a visit with you at your home, I could literally just unplug the handheld. I got the LCD. I just jump in the car and go. Or if for some reason they want to go, maybe they're taking care of an athletic team, they got to go to the basketball court or the football field, they can take these instruments with them. And then on the patient education side, we did the neuropathylator with Visual Odyssey.
Sure.
We did this really sophisticated set of videos, which I'll show you, and the DMX. So it's a 3 different kind of component patient education, because I'm really big into patient education, always have been, because you can't build one of the biggest practices in your state or city or in the country if you're not doing really good patient education, in my opinion.
No,
and I want to have it be easier for chiropractors to make it more natural for them to do patient education. So this is an example of how we designed it. So internally inside of our company, we developed all these different, we'll call these video education pieces. So if I took the shoulder, for example, and all of them are similar, you just push the button, you get a video, you hit the play button, and I call this a backdrop education system. I even have a patent pending on this, where we take a sequence, which is inflammatory, the shoulder. Then the next thing you see is the real person with that problem, then a person without the problem because we fixed it, and then another animation. And we did every one of the body parts like this.
Wow.
And then the person with a problem, animation again, and then the person without the problem. So the idea is that we're giving you a backdrop and you say anything you want. There's no audio. And so you could say, Mark, the reason you have the shoulder problem is that, I watched you playing pickleball and there was that backhand and blah, 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 whatever I would want to say to you, right? And then, I can go right back into that sequence and I can do the lumbar spine, let's say. And when I press, get that video to play, it's going to go through the same sequence, which is going to be inflammation of the low back. Then it's going to be the person with a low back problem. Because what happens a lot of times with patient education is the person says, my neighbor, my friend, my son, my mom has this problem.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the chiropractor has a difficult time transitioning that and turning it into something like of reality.
Right.
So we developed all these videos for that piece. And then the other thing we did for the SRT is we have a 16-page magazine
Mm.
that they can walk away with. And since I used shoulder in my example with you, if I went to the shoulder page,
Yeah.
and the shoulder page has all the stats, has an explanation, has the SRT in use, has a picture of the SRT, and it allows me to be able to hand them something tangible to take with them.
I love
And
that.
we decided to make that electronic as well. So we took that same printed piece and we put it on the
There you go.
computer so they can talk and have another backdrop. If you want to talk about, $62 billion of the shoulder, $800 billion from NIH, and then this is the 16-page magazine electronically.
Very
So
cool.
people are really into it because it really feels cool. It feels up to date. And, that's the overview of the SRT system.
And it's visual. People are visual animals.
Yes.
And to be able to graphically see what you're talking about and have the beautiful graphics and videos playing is amazing. And there would be no way that a solo practitioner could put something like that together. I mean,
Not easily.
not easily. The resources that I can tell that have been invested here are huge. So it's amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right. What would you like to see now?
Well, I'd like to give you an overview of the ProBalance 360.
That's what I was
okay.
hoping you would.
Yeah, let's switch gears and do that. And
Let's do it.
that's one of the cool things about having this studio is we get an opportunity to switch gears. And we have doctors come we're in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And we have doctors come to Pittsburgh in one of our live trainings every month. And
Sure.
we also do Boca Raton. That's a city we've been going to. We do that at a hotel, but this is our facility here. And when they walk in, we're just about ready to go. So if I switched gears and just had Jerry tilt a little bit,
All
I'll
right.
give you an overview of the system here. This is called the ProBalance 360.
Right.
There's a couple key components to it. The area of balance and proprioception we've been working within for about the last 7 years, Mark, almost 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we had developed some really nice protocols to help people with balance and coordination, but I noticed there wasn't an easy way to measure it and
Right.
remeasure and do therapies that were proprioceptive in nature. So we developed this system and released it about 2 years ago. It's been ultra popular.
Mm-hmm.
And basically how it works is there's a Bluetooth connection of this base, and this base is very light. It has a plastic component to it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's Bluetooth to the computer. And the computer system that we designed is to be able to do an evaluation and therapy, not just an evaluation.
Yes.
And the reason for that is that I didn't want an instrument to just measure and give people a better diagnosis. I wanted to have something that actually got people better, because that's how my brain works. And so what we did is we can do a 2-legged balance test, a 1-legged balance test, eyes open, eyes closed, and get a really solid report. And the report gets spooled up in seconds. And we also, as part of this system, put together the software protocols, so we can do a 2-legged balance test, 1-legged balance test. We also have some Parkinson's baselines. We have some cognitive baselines and limits of stability. And I won't have time to get into any of those in detail, but we have videos on all those too. The other thing we developed is the use of the information in a series of therapies. The exam, by the way, the first time test takes less than 5 minutes. People
Yep.
are really impressed by that.
Yeah.
You literally can do a 1-leg and 2-leg, eyes open, eyes closed, in under 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Then once you get into the therapies, there's some really cool therapies where you're actually, you hit the center of gravity button, it automatically centers and zeros the plate with the computer, pops that right into the center. Person stands on the plate, and again, I have videos to demonstrate this if your people would like to see all that. And what you're able to do is, in this case, you're trying to keep that still But there's opportunities to do so many different therapies with this, and some of them are games that are kind of fun too. And maybe I can have Drew pop over here for a minute if he could. And so maybe I'll just show you. Can I show you one game, Mark? Might be
I
kind of
was
fun.
hoping you would, because I
Yeah.
absolutely love. And to get serious just for a second, I think you were the one who shared the research piece with me that the 10-second one-legged stand failure, in other words, you can't stand on one leg
Yep.
for 10 seconds, is a predictor of an increase in all cause mortality.
Yes.
And docs, if you're not doing this with your patients, this is not just for athletes, this is for everybody. Something like, is it 25,000 deaths a year from falls?
Mark, that's true, and everything you said is accurate. And that study you're referring to was the British Journal of Sports Medicine, and it
Yes.
was a big study, 1,700 folks in that study,
Yeah.
and it's been really popular. It's been reprinted and re-stimulated in the news, and it's quite interesting because the one-legged balance test is really just no system, no computerized system that they did the studies with. And our program, you can do two legs and one leg, as I mentioned. And the one-legged balance test is really kind of a unique idea that I came up with. In fact, I have a patent pending on being able to test the lateral sway of a patient on one leg with eyes open and eyes closed, and get a metric so you can really see how far off the mark they are. And then once you know how far off the mark they are, there's a series of therapies that we prescribe, which takes about 10 minutes.
Yep.
We recommend twice a week for 5 weeks, 10 treatments. And the results have been quite astounding, actually, 60, 70% better with one block of care. And one of the reasons, Mark, is if Drew, you could pop over here for a minute, just be a patient. And Drew will just jump up on the plate for a second just so I can demonstrate how it works. They literally just stand on it.
Yep.
And you can see he just had to put his feet right on those marks.
Yeah.
And then when we are doing our examination, what we can do is we have this button mark over here when we do an evaluation. If I was doing a two-legged test, and Jerry, you can catch that? Yeah.
Yep.
So you see this button I have is called COG. So it's basically centers the plate. And when I push that button, it actually zeroes it out. So we know that's accurate every single time. That was a big piece of reliability.
Yes.
And then once he's in position to get tested, then we just hit the go button. It gives you a little countdown. And you just tell the patient, listen, just try to keep your star in the middle there. See that cross? And now move around a little bit.
Yeah.
So as different parts of this process go, let's go into the games for a minute. But so we do the test, which takes about 5 minutes, like I said. Yep. And then we spool up a report, and we go over the report with the patient, and then we give them the recommendations. The recommendations generally include therapy on the plate, on the system.
Yes.
And we did a device similar to the one I showed you over there, but this one's called ProSoft GT. It's just a fast, slow, low preload. So it's a stimulation of the speed. And we put this in different spots for mechanoreception stimulation while the person's on the balance plate. That's so awesome. For example, Mark, one of the things that we figured out is that, we could do the other one. One of the things that we figured out over time is when you take a person and you evaluate them on the plate, we not only could predict, are they a fall risk, but which way they're going to fall.
That's amazing.
And so, and this is really popular for people to know this. So if I know that this patient's going to fall forward and to the left, we create the therapies customized to that person's individual problem and fall risk direction. Yeah. And we stimulate the mechanoreceptors in a reverse posture. And so the speed at which we can help people improve, it's dramatic. It really makes a huge difference.
It is, man. I'll tell you, if the federal government ever got wise, they would have this thing paid for by Medicare for every single senior citizen, you would see the cost of healthcare go down dramatically,
Yeah.
from what they would save, not only the deaths, but the injuries. And it's a costly end for those people. Once they fall, they're never quite the same.
Oh, Mark, it is a tragedy, and we didn't even realize how big the market space was for helping people with balance when I first embarked on this. But now we know the high percentage of people that go to the emergency room is because of a fall,
Yeah.
and they don't get to go home because they're severely injured when they get there,
Yes.
and they have to go upstairs and stay. They go from there to a rehab home, and almost half the people don't get to go home. They go to the funeral home.
Yeah.
And almost all of us know somebody who's went through this. They've fallen and broke their hip or hit their head. I mean, it is a serious problem, and it's getting worse. It's the number one symptom. One of the studies I recently read, number one symptom of having long COVID is having an instability problem after COVID that you didn't have before COVID. So some of these things are just coming out. And it's not going to be less cases. It's going to be more cases.
And so if you're listening,
Ready for the game?
there's something you can do about it. And this is it.
Yeah, 100%. And if I could show you the game, Jerry's going to switch around
Awesome.
here.
Great.
Yeah, because as you mentioned, we gamified it, and we have a bunch of games, but one that's really popular, and Drew, you could just let me narrate it, and you could, since you know the program. This one's called the Tux Racer. And basically what you're doing is you're manipulating the balance plate on the floor with your feet, trying not to move your shoulders, and you're using that proprioceptive chain. But since it's sort of like a video game that a lot of kids play with their hands, except of course now this is with your feet. And so you're trying to run down and hit the fish and you try to get the high score and so forth, and then it's timing you. And we keep track of it, and that information is helpful because if you do this twice a week, you really can rehabilitate these neuro chains.
Oh yeah, big time.
And if you don't know what you're doing, like I was showing somebody last week, a little demonstration, and she thought, oh, okay, the faster I go, the better, and she ended up in the woods, up in the tree. Like, it's very real, right? And it gives you a little score. So pick another game, Drew, just so we can kind of show Mark and his folks
but I mean, this
game.
to me is part of the brilliance behind the thing, to actually make it fun,
And it becomes very competitive too, Mark. That's another interesting thing, because I don't know if you noticed, but I have two machines side by side here in our facility, and our clinic is literally right there. So the patients come right here, and they're going back and forth, and who's got the better score and that sort of thing.
That's awesome.
And this is another game where you are the blue ball, trying to get your blue ball into the red ball, and then the red ball moves. And then these games, they speed up, they become more difficult. So the way this works is kind of interesting. It doesn't matter how good your proprioception and coordination is today, it's going to be better after we do these 10 visits with you. And you could come in with a walker, or you could be a professional athlete, and you're going to improve because the games are designed to get more complicated. And Drew, show the dynamic. I'm going to have Mark see that one because he's an expert in mechanoreception too, and he knows how this works. But this dynamic game is really slick. Let me jump on the other side of you here. And so what we have to do here, Mark, on this game is you're taking the crosshair and trying to chase the red ball.
Oh, man.
So now as the person gets kind of good at it, I can change the shape to a square, which is much harder.
Yeah.
And then I can change it to a diamond. I don't know if you see that, I'm sure.
Yep, see it perfectly. Oval.
And then I got an oval, and then watch this one. See, look at that flower. Okay, then I can make it bigger, and I can change the direction of the ball, and then I can speed it up. So like just when the person thinks like, oh, I got this one nailed. No, we just change one of the parameters, and you can't do it too well. And then that forces you to get more discriminant with your lower chain extremity. And that's just not something that we would generally think to do. You might do that with your hands for dexterity, but people don't think to do it with their feet. And that's why there's such a dramatic amount of people falling.
And where you're talking about directional therapeutics here, you're not going to get that on a wobble board or a BAPS board, rocker board in a practice at that level. You need to have the technology. It's amazing. It's really
Yeah.
exciting.
And then Mark, look, we recommend you do 2 times a week for five total weeks, right? So that's 10, and re-examine them at 7.
Gotcha.
So, and if we re-examine at 7, we see where they are. We still have a few visits. Approximately 50% of the folks we've tested will need a second block,
Yep. Yep.
which would be, another, 10 treatments or 5 weeks.
Yep.
And then after that, it's just like a chiropractic visit schedule. We put them on wellness.
Yeah.
And we're so serious about this, Mark, here. My team does therapy, like Drew is in therapy twice a week. My whole team has to do it twice a week, and we just keep making it harder and harder and harder, as we go up the chain. Because look, we want everybody to have the best possible coordination, balance, and proprioception. That's what this does.
Well, hey, listen, hey, Drew, thank you so much for being our spokesmodel. Appreciate it.
Yeah, there you
Very. Hey, listen, thanks for taking the time to show us the ProBalance, because I really wanted to get that in. And I'm a huge fan of all the equipment, but my heart is
Sure.
in that ProBalance. Listen, if somebody's interested in finding out more, I know you mentioned you invite people in to events there in the practice physically and Zoom as well.
Yep.
What's a good next step for somebody who wants to learn more?
Yeah, so I would recommend, if you like what you saw here and you just want to do a cursory review on your own, I would just go to one of our websites, and the one for ProBalance is learnprobalance.com, and the ProAdjuster is learnproadjustersrt.com.
Okay.
And there's a series of videos. Our research papers are there. They can find a lot of, self-discovery, if you will, because people seem to like to do that today.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Mark, I would suggest directly after that, for more information, we would just set up a personalized Zoom call like this.
Yeah.
And then if they'd like to come and see, touch, and feel, we go to a lot of places like your events and others and ours, and we're happy to have people come and sort of kick the tires, because our experience, I've been doing this for over 25 years. My experience is if you come kick the tires of our products, you will most likely decide to purchase our products because you've not seen something on this level at other places you can go.
Doesn't exist. Well, listen, Mo, thanks so much for your time. Thank you for the team for helping to make this happen. Do look forward to getting to be with you next month at our next event. And thanks for your commitment and all you've done to make this a reality. It's monumental. It really is.
I appreciate it, Mark, and thanks for the compliments, your friendship, and allowing me to share this with you so you could share it with others, because there's a lot of people suffering, and we want to try to prevent as many problems as we can, and we want to help them if they do. So thanks for having me, and I look forward to seeing you at the event next month as well.
All right. So this is Dr. Mark Santa. Thanks for joining me and Mo for today's edition of Level Up Podcast, and I hope you make today an exceptional day. Thank you.